I'm going to save about $20,000 this year, of which most of it I'm going to be investing or putting into retirement accounts. I'm comparing my spending habits from last year, 2020, to this year, 2021. And then at the end of the video, I'll also share a few other things that you could look into yourself to possibly save money this year. In the comment section, tell me a few ways that you're going to save money this year and how much money you could save, and if any of these methods or tactics worked for you. The first area that I'm downsizing on is my rent. I did a whole YouTube video touring my $1,500 a month apartment. At the end of the video, I told you guys that I planned on moving. They wanted me to start spending $16.95 a month for a 533 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. After negotiating with them, I still would have been spending $16.35 in total rent costs, not including electricity. One day I would like to own my own house, and I've been saving money towards a down payment, and I thought it is ludicrous for me to spend almost $1,700 a month on rent. It wasn't kind of who I want to be. So I said this year things have to change, and I've just moved into a nice 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town, and I calculated the cost. If I was paying $16.35 a month, I am saving $415 a month, which totals to just under $5,000 this year in terms of total savings, guys. In terms of rent, you don't have to feel like you're tied down to a certain place, or if it makes sense, you could always consider getting a roommate or having somebody else split expenses with you, and that could be a good idea, a good way to save money on your rent expenses, on your living expenses. The second thing in my budget that I cut out was cable. Now, hear me out. I know a lot of people are cutting cable. It's trendy, right? And then they go get some other thing and they're spending $50, $60 a month to get TV channels. No, I cut cable out entirely. So before, I was using Comcast. Last year, I spent $1,245 a year on cable and this internet package that Comcast was offering. So that totaled to about $103 a month. The very last month I was in my apartment, they wanted $145 a month for internet going forward, and that's way too much. And you hear stories of people every year, they call about the promotional offer that they once had and that they want to renegotiate their contract. Luckily, I live in an area where there is 2 or 3 different internet service providers. So if you don't like the service coming from one of them, you could always switch. And I had no issues with Comcast. I know Verizon's no better. However, right now I'm using Verizon. I have insanely fast internet and I'm spending $70 a month instead of $145. I'm saving almost $1,000 this year off of my cable and internet bills alone. I cut out cable. The only thing I really used to watch on cable was the news. I don't really watch live sports. I understand that if you're really into sports or you're really into some sort of TV show, that cable might be a necessity for you. A lot of these sports teams and sports now are online, so there are options out there for you guys. You don't necessarily have to be beholden to a cable company. There's also local cable, people using antennas. I don't do any of that, but I would say if you consider looking at your cable bill, your internet bill, and trying to renegotiate those bills, or trying to cut those costs entirely. Another thing you could look into are the low-cost cell phone service providers, pay-as-you-use cell phone services. Those types of things are areas where you can cut money every month. Another thing that I'm cutting from my budget to save an immense amount of money is I'm cutting back on my grocery spending, guys. I used to shop exclusively at ShopRite. It's one of the local grocers here. And there's nothing wrong with ShopRite. I love ShopRite. However, there's also a Lidl right down the street. I usually grocery shop every week. I like to have a lot of fresh meat and vegetables and things like that into my diet. I buy a week's worth of groceries and it costs me maybe $100. But I could go to Lidl, which is almost like an upscale Aldi. I can buy a week's worth of groceries for $50 or $40. I thought that by mixing and matching my groceries, I could still shop at Giant or ShopRite. I could still shop at Costco. However, if I threw in some Lidl, I wound up saving a lot of money. All this stuff that I've been getting from Lidl has been just as good quality. They have bulk. They do a lot of their own brand name stuff so that you could save money. I'm estimating that I can save $100, $150 a month in terms of my grocery bill, and thus I can save $1,800 this year. If you're out there and you're doing all of your shopping at Whole Foods, or if you're eating out a lot and you have an immense eating out budget, maybe consider how you're eating and how much you're eating and where you're getting your food. Eating out does have a higher cost than making food at home, making the same dishes at home. You do spend some time cooking. I understand some people don't like to cook. I like to cook. The next area that I am saving money on is by decluttering. So when I moved from my old apartment to my new apartment, I took all of the things that I was not using and I put it in a box and I gave it to my brother, and he's listing it on eBay for me. Things like my old Xbox, my old modem, some clothes, knickknacks, things around the house that did have value. However, I wasn't using it. By decluttering, I'm making an extra $500, $1,000, even though it isn't really cutting expenses. I wanted to include it in this video because it is a way that you could just look around your home, sell it on Facebook Marketplace or any of those sites where you can sell your things that you aren't really using anymore and recoup some of that money and put it to good use. This year, included in the $20,000 that I'll be saving in 2021, my travel expenses. I know that, for instance, in 2019, I did a lot of traveling, and in 2020, we had travel plans. We were going to go to France. We were going to do these open air concerts. We were going to take a trip down to a few other European countries. And all of that went on hold due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I was doing 2-3 trips a year, some domestic, some international. It's going to be a laid back year. If I travel at all, I will be using points. And so I'll be saving about $3,000 this year just by staying put, staying home, doing stuff around town rather than flying across the country or flying across the sea. I feel like I'm privileged because I have a lot of prior travel experiences, so I don't really feel like I'm missing out on a ton. Lastly, guys, my hobbies. Cut back on my hobby spending and my wants. I spent $13,000 on firearms, guns, accessories, suppressors, new firearms. I was going to the range a lot. There's not really the need for me to spend over $10,000 on that sort of thing. That is actually going to be the lion's share of my savings this year. I don't expect everybody out there to be spending 5 figures on a hobby. But the moral of the story is to look at your budget and cut back on things that you don't actually need, but that you want. Usually hobbies cost money. Now, there are low-cost hobbies, so I've kind of been redirecting my time and focus on, the things that are costing me a lot of money to activities that don't cost me as much money. A few other areas that you can save a ton of money on, guys. Pay down all of your credit cards, pay down your debt. Make sure that you're not spending extra money on top of your debt due to interest. Also, look at renegotiating your insurance or possibly changing insurance providers. I did the research and I'm saving a good amount of money using Geico. They give me a ton of coverage for my car, for my renter's insurance, without spending a ton of money. How much money you're spending on car insurance depends on what area you live in, how old you are, what type of car you have. There's so many factors, but if you got a quote for $140 a month and it offers you certain protection, guarantee you there's another insurance company out there that will give you the same coverage for $80 or $90 a month. And saving a small amount of money each month adds up a lot when it comes to the end of the year. So that's another area that you guys can look at. Another area that you could look at in terms of saving money is on your car payments or your car itself. If your car is not paid off, are you paying for too much car? Are you paying several $100s a month on a car that you don't really need when you could get rid of that one and buy a used car for cheap? Some people are car poor, some people are house poor. Look at your budget, and that's the first step of everything. Have a budget. I did a full detailed video on how I budget, guys. So if you want an idea of my budget and how I'm budgeting, you could go check that video out. I'm not saving $15,000, $20,000 to go spend it on consumer goods. I am saving this in an effort to advance myself financially, and I hope that this video illustrated some of that for you guys. I hope you guys got some ideas. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button down below. If you guys like wealth and finance related topics, please consider subscribing to my channel. And as always, guys, stay safe out there. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.